The meeting hall of the Galactic Coalition was silent. No one spoke. Not a single sound could be heard, except the low hum of the holographic projectors floating above the long glass table. Ambassador Thelnax, a tall alien with 6 calm eyes and silver-blue skin, stared at the images in front of him. His hands trembled slightly. What he was seeing did not seem real. It was too much even for someone who had witnessed centuries of war. The images showed 3 human colony worlds gone. Entire cities burned. Oceans turned into steam. From orbit, the planets looked like glowing scars in the darkness of space. 40 million humans had died in one night. No warning. No demand. The Krell Empire had appeared out of nowhere, released their fire, and vanished again into the stars. Thelnax had lived for 300 years. He had seen the rise and fall of empires. He had seen armies destroy planets before. But this was different. The Krell were cruel, yes, but they always followed rules. They always gave their enemies a chance to surrender. This time they had simply killed and left. It was pure, cold slaughter. Around the table, the other ambassadors watched in silence. None of them dared to speak. They were used to controlling peace through words and treaties. But what words could describe this? Thelnax finally broke the silence. His voice was soft, heavy with disbelief. They killed 40 million. No declaration, no message, nothing. Ambassador RHA Talk from the Vrelian sector turned his long neck. Perhaps it was a mistake. The Krell are warriors, but even they know limits. Thelnax shook his head slowly. This was no mistake. This was a message. And the message is simple: fear us. For 10,000 years, the Galactic Coalition had kept peace among the stars. 40 species worked together, guided by law and reason. When conflicts arose, they sent diplomats, not soldiers. The coalition was built on one shared belief, that war was the greatest failure of civilization. But now that peace was cracking. The humans were still new to the stars. They had joined galactic trade just 50 years ago. They were curious, ambitious, and strange, always moving, always building. Most species had found them interesting but harmless. And now, the harmless ones were under attack. Thelnax contacted Earth immediately. He offered help, protection, and alliance. Join the coalition, he told them. Together, we can stop the Krell. His voice carried hope. He truly wanted to save them. Hours later, the reply came. The screen lit up with the image of a human woman. Ambassador Chun. She looked young, far younger than anyone in that room. Her eyes were sharp but calm. Too calm for someone whose people had just lost millions. Thank you for your offer, Ambassador, she said. But humanity will handle this ourselves. Thelnax blinked, confused. Handle this yourselves? The Krell have 5,000 warships. You have barely 200. Chin nodded. We understand. He tried again, desperate now. They will crush you. You cannot fight them alone. The woman's voice did not change. Then we will die trying. And the transmission ended. For a long time, Thelnax sat in front of the dark screen. Around him, the other council members whispered. Some felt sorry. Others smiled quietly. Foolish humans, one said. They will be gone before the next cycle. Thelnax said nothing. He only watched the holographic stars and felt something cold in his heart. Fear. 2 weeks passed. Then, one night, every coalition sensor near human space lit up at once. A massive energy reading appeared on their screens. It was the size of a moon, moving faster than anything recorded. Thelnax ordered a visual scan. When the image appeared, every ambassador in the room gasped. It was a ship, but calling it a ship felt wrong. It was a monster made of metal and fire, 15 kilometers long. Its hull was black, covered in armor that swallowed light. It had no smooth design, no beauty. It looked like a weapon built by rage itself. Gigantic guns lined its sides. Reactor cores burned deep inside like small suns. Even from millions of kilometers away, the heat distorted the space around it. What is that? Someone whispered. Thelnax's voice cracked. A warship. Human design. The room exploded with noise. Impossible. They don't have this technology. It breaks every treaty. But Thelnax didn't move. He just stared at the name painted on the hull, UNC Retribution, each letter the size of a building. He felt his heart's beat faster. Retribution, he whispered. They built it for revenge. He contacted Earth again. Chen's face appeared once more, but this time she looked different. Tired, hollow-eyed, as if she had not slept in days. Ambassador Chen, he said quickly, you must stop this. That ship is a violation of every law in the galaxy. It could destroy entire planets. Chun looked at him silently. Then she said, we did not sign your laws. We are not part of your coalition. Thelnax swallowed. Please, if you use that ship, billions could die. Her answer was quiet. Yes, that is exactly what it was made to do. Thelnax felt his heart's freeze. Chun continued, her voice turning cold as steel. The Krell killed 40 million of our people, our children, our families. Now they will learn what happens when you kill humanity without fear. Behind her, on the screen, the massive ship's engines ignited. The stars behind it vanished in the light. Thelnax could barely speak. Where is it going? He whispered. Chun looked straight at him. To end this war before it begins. And the transmission cut out. In the silence that followed, Thelnax realized something terrible. The humans were no longer asking for peace. They were becoming something far more dangerous. They were becoming what the galaxy had long forgotten, predators. He whispered to himself, voice trembling, may the stars have mercy on us all. The Galactic Coalition met again the next morning. The same great hall that once held laughter and debate was now filled with whispers of fear. The holographic stars above the round table glowed dimly, casting blue light on the faces of 40 different species. Diplomats, leaders, and war veterans. But all eyes were on the center screen, where the image of the UNC Retribution rotated slowly in space. Thelnax stood near the front. His long fingers trembled as he spoke. This human warship is unlike anything we have seen. Its power readings are beyond reason. Even our largest dreadnoughts would melt if they stood against it. Ambassador RHA clicked his jaws nervously. It cannot be real. Humans cannot build something like that. They are too young, too weak, too emotional. Thelnax shook his head slowly. Emotion, RHA. That is what built it. The room fell silent again. For a moment, no one dared to breathe. The ambassadors looked at each other with growing dread. They had all read human history. They knew about Earth, the world of storms, fire, and endless struggle. A planet that tried to kill its own children. And yet, those children had learned to fight back. They had survived everything their world threw at them. Maybe that was why they were so dangerous. Ambassador Vethar of the Mran League finally spoke. If that ship is real, it violates every treaty signed in the last 10,000 years. A weapon of planetary destruction cannot exist. It must be destroyed before it leaves human space. A voice from the back interrupted. It was the Zoral representative, his voice shaking with fear. Destroyed? Do you even hear yourself? Who among us can destroy it? That thing is 15 kilometers long. It carries power enough to burn a world. Another ambassador slammed his fist on the table. Then we sanction the humans. We cut them off from trade, from fuel, from all galactic resources. Thelnax closed his eyes. That will not stop them. They no longer care for trade or approval. The only thing that matters to them now is revenge. He looked up at the holographic image again, the sharp, dark blade of a ship gliding through the stars. It was more than a machine. It was a message written in steel. Humanity was not asking for mercy. Humanity was promising war. The council fell into chaos. Voices overlapped, anger mixing with fear. Some wanted to contact the Krell and warn them. Others wanted to prepare their own fleets. A few even suggested hiding, abandoning the outer systems near Krell space entirely. But Thelnax stood in silence, watching them argue. He felt something deep inside him, a sadness mixed with respect. The humans had been offered protection, and they refused. Now, they had built something no one else dared to imagine. They had chosen to fight alone, and somehow, Felnax feared they might actually win. Suddenly, a young aide ran into the hall, breathless and pale. "Breaking report," he shouted. "The human ship has left orbit. It's moving toward Krell territory." The room went quiet again. The holographic display shifted, showing the massive ship accelerating through the void. Its engines burned brighter than any star nearby, bending space with their power. Felnax could see the shockwave following it, a ripple in the darkness. Ambassador Vethar whispered, "They're serious, they're really going." Felnax nodded slowly. "Yes, humanity has declared war, without words." Someone in the room muttered, "Against the Krell Empire? They will be destroyed before they reach their border." But Felnax wasn't so sure. He turned to the central console and opened a file, a report on the Krell military. 5,000 warships, 100 fortified worlds, billions of soldiers bred for war. They believed strength was everything. They laughed at weakness. To them, humans were prey. And yet, Felnax thought they do not understand what hunts them now. He remembered Ambassador Chen's last words. "We will not be victims again." Those words echoed in his mind like thunder. The coalition voted quickly after that. The result was divided. Some wanted to warn the Krell, others wanted to stay out completely. Fear of the human weapon spread faster than any signal. Rumors whispered through every system that the humans had built a planet killer, a ship with the power of gods. Within hours, Krell intelligence caught the same readings. Their war marshal, Kresh, received the report in his throne room on Krethar. He laughed. His sharp fangs glinted under the red light. "One ship," he growled. "They send one ship against us? Let them come. We will crush them, and then we will burn their homeworld for their arrogance." His generals roared in agreement. The Krell had fought the coalition before and survived. To them, humans were nothing but insects pretending to roar like lions. But deep inside the command chamber, one Krell officer hesitated. "My lord," he said carefully, "the readings from that vessel, they are beyond anything we have recorded. Perhaps we should—" "Silence!" Kresh shouted. "They are weak. They think one ship can defeat an empire. We will show them what real power means." His laughter echoed through the chamber. Back in the coalition hall, Felnax felt the same dread return. He had sent messages to both sides, the Krell and the humans, begging them to stop. Neither listened. Both were moving toward something inevitable, a storm that could destroy everything. As the meeting ended, he stood alone before the giant window of the council dome. Beyond it, he could see the faint light of distant stars. Somewhere out there, the UNC retribution was already cutting through the void, faster than anything the coalition had ever built. He whispered to himself, "The Krell think they are safe because they have numbers. But the humans, they only need one ship." He turned off the lights and left the hall in darkness. Behind him, the stars glimmered cold and distant, unaware that soon, entire worlds would burn. The ship floated in silence above the dark side of Mars. It did not move, but space itself seemed to bend around it. This black hull absorbed every ray of light. It was not just a machine. It looked alive, like a sleeping beast waiting for a command. The name painted across its side glowed faintly in white letters. UNC Retribution. Inside, thousands of crew members worked in silence. No laughter, no small talk, only the hum of power flowing through the ship's endless corridors. They all knew why they were there. They all knew what they were about to do. At the heart of the vessel stood Admiral Elena Volov, the woman chosen to lead humanity's revenge. She stood tall, her eyes fixed on the massive window that showed the red surface of Mars below. Her hair was silver, her face calm, but her eyes carried something more powerful than rage. They carried purpose. She had once been known for mercy. Before the Krell attack, she had commanded rescue fleets, saving colonies after disasters. But now mercy was gone. The Krell had taken her daughter, a little girl of 10 who had loved stars and music. When the Krell destroyed her home world, Volov was on duty near Jupiter. She arrived too late. There was nothing left to save. She turned her pain into resolve. When the human government decided to strike back, she volunteered to lead the Retribution project. Every scientist, every engineer, every soldier who had lost someone worked under her command. For 10 years, they built the ship in secret beneath the red dust of Mars. They called it Project Last Light. Now it was ready. On the bridge, Captain Harlan approached her. His voice was quiet, respectful. "Admiral, final preparations are complete. All systems green. Engines are charged." Volov didn't turn. She kept watching Mars. "Status of weapons?" "Fully armed," Harlan replied. 200 main guns, 30 planetary cannons, and the quantum warhead array is online. She nodded once. "Good. Begin ignition tests." The floor trembled slightly as the engines began to awaken. Outside, blue light gathered at the ship's rear like a storm being born. The crew felt the vibrations deep in their bones. They all looked at each other. None of them said it out loud, but they all knew. Once they left orbit, there would be no turning back. On Earth, Ambassador Chun stood before the Human Council. Dozens of world leaders sat around her, their faces grim. A hologram of the Retribution hovered above the table. "The Galactic Coalition believes we are making a mistake," said one of the ministers. "They say this ship will bring the galaxy against us." Chun looked at them with steady eyes. "The galaxy stayed silent when the Krell murdered our people. Now we stay silent no longer." Another minister leaned forward. "And Admiral Volov? You gave her full command authority." Chun nodded. "Yes, she answers to no one now. Her mission is simple: end the Krell Empire." Some in the room looked uneasy. Others looked proud. But none objected. They all knew there was no other choice. Humanity had been pushed too far. Now their answer would be written in fire. Back aboard the Retribution, Volov walked through the main hangar. Thousands of soldiers stood in perfect rows. Men and women from every colony, every world. Their armor was dark gray, marked with the insignia of the United Nations of Earth. She stopped before them, her voice echoing through the vast chamber. 2 weeks ago, she began, 40 million of our brothers and sisters were killed without warning. The Krell thought we would beg for mercy. They thought we would hide behind treaties and words. She paused, her voice sharp as steel. They forgot who we are. We are the children of Earth, born under storms, raised by struggle, tempered by fire. Every disaster we survived made us stronger. Every loss taught us one truth: we do not die quietly. The soldiers listened in silence. Some clenched their fists. Others wiped tears they didn't want anyone to see. Volov continued, her voice steady. Today, we sail into enemy space not as victims, but as the storm. The Krell will learn fear. They will see what happens when humanity decides to fight back. We carry the ghosts of our dead with us, and they will guide our hands. For a moment there was silence. Then a roar erupted. A single, united sound that shook the hangar. The soldiers shouted one word again and again. Retribution! 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 Volov turned and walked back to the command deck. The engines thundered now, burning like suns. The ship began to move. Slowly, gracefully, the massive warship drifted away from Mars, breaking the orbit line and heading into deep space. On the observation deck, Captain Harlan whispered, "Destination confirmed. Krell border system, Krethar Prime." Volov nodded. "Engage FTL." A low hum filled the air. The stars stretched into lines of white light. Space rippled, twisted, and then the Retribution vanished. From his office on the Coalition Central World, Thelnax watched the sensor readings. The ship had jumped to faster-than-light travel. He felt his heart's pound faster. "It's done," he whispered. "They've gone to war." He sent one final message to the Krell Emperor. "Do not underestimate them. The humans will not stop. They will fight until one of you no longer exists." But deep down, Thelnax already knew the truth. It was too late. The war had begun, and nothing could stop it. In the dark, empty void between stars, the Retribution raced forward like a blade cutting through night. Its engines screamed. Its weapons waited. And in her command chair, Admiral Volov closed her eyes for one last silent promise. "For my daughter," she whispered, "and for every life they took, I will burn their worlds." The darkness of deep space stretched endlessly around the UNC Retribution. For days, it had traveled faster than light, slicing through the void like a shadow made of fire. The stars outside the viewing glass looked like streaks of silver light. Inside, the crew moved with quiet focus. No celebration, no music, no laughter. Every heart on board carried the same thought. We are not here to win. We are here to end them. On the bridge, Admiral Elena Volov stood at the center. Her hands were clasped behind her back as the ship's navigation officer spoke softly. "Admiral, FTL exit in 20 seconds. Will arrive at the Krell system of Veltor. Population, 2.3 billion. Volov didn't blink. Her voice was calm, almost cold. "Prepare for immediate tactical scan. No warnings, no hails. We strike the moment we arrive." Captain Harlan nodded. "Aye, ma'am." The lights dimmed as the ship's massive reactors shifted power. The energy levels climbed until the control panels glowed red. The hull began to hum, a deep, living sound that filled every corner of the ship. Then, with a single flash of white light, the Retribution dropped out of faster-than-light travel. Before them, the Krell world appeared, a massive planet wrapped in steel and light. Orbiting stations shone like stars. Shipyards, fleets, and satellites filled the void. It was the Krell Empire's pride, the heart of their military power. But as the Retribution arrived, an uneasy silence followed. The Krell defense ships detected something. An object of impossible size had appeared near their orbit. At first, they didn't understand what it was. Then the scanners caught the readings. Energy output, off the scale. Weapon count, uncountable. Panic spread through the Krell command network. Warnings filled the channels. Unknown vessel detected. Size, 15 kilometers. It's human. It's human. In the Krell command tower on the surface, General Torvak glared at the screens. "One ship," he growled. "They send one ship into our space? Arrogant fools. Destroy it." He ordered the fleet to attack. Hundreds of Krell warships launched from orbit, engines blazing like fireflies in the dark. Back on the Retribution, sensors lit up with movement. Thousands of red dots, enemies, filled the display. Captain Harlan turned to Volov. "Admiral, incoming fleet. They're charging weapons." "Let them come," Volov said quietly. "Arm main batteries. Prepare the Helios lance." The crew worked in silence. Massive cannons rotated into position. Energy capacitors charged until the ship's hull glowed faintly red. Deep inside, the reactor's roar became a heartbeat of fury. "Target the largest ship," Volov ordered. "Make it quick." The Krell fired first. Beams of plasma and guided missiles streaked through space, lighting the void with blue and orange fire. Explosions flashed against the Retribution's shields, shaking the ship slightly, but the damage was nothing. The armor barely registered the hits. Then Volov gave the command. "Fire!" The Retribution answered. A beam of white light erupted from the ship's core. A line so bright it turned night into day. It tore through space, hitting the Krell flagship dead center. For a moment, everything went silent. Then the flagship vanished. Not exploded, not shattered, erased. The energy beam burned through the ship, through two others behind it, and kept going until it hit the planet's upper atmosphere. A ring of light spread across the world below, shaking its surface. The bridge went silent. The crew watched the sensors, one massive enemy fleet gone in seconds. Captain Harlan whispered, "One shot, and 3 ships are gone." Volov didn't respond. Her eyes were fixed on the planet. "Reload the main gun. Target their orbital stations." The next blast shattered 100 satellites. The third vaporized a shipyard. Each strike echoed like thunder across the system. The Krell fleet broke formation, fear spreading faster than their orders. Some ships tried to retreat. Others charged blindly, desperate to avenge their fallen. It didn't matter. The Retribution was too fast, too strong. Its secondary cannons fired in endless rhythm, cutting through Krell ships like paper. The black void became a storm of fire and debris. From the surface of the Krell world, millions watched the sky burn. Their proud fleets, their protectors, were falling like sparks into darkness. No message came from command. No warning. Only the terrible light from above. General Torvac stared at the screens in horror. "What kind of monster did they build?" he whispered. Up in orbit, Volov stood still. Her face had no expression, but her voice was low, full of controlled fury. "Send this transmission to all frequencies." The communications officer nodded. "Ready, Admiral." Volov spoke clearly, every word like a blade. "This is Admiral Elena Volov of the United Nations Retribution. The Krell Empire murdered 40 million civilians. This is humanity's answer. Withdraw your fleets. Surrender your weapons, or your worlds will burn next." Her message spread across the system, through every Krell ship, every command post, every colony. But the Krell did not surrender. Pride blinded them. They answered with more ships, more fire. Volov's eyes narrowed. "Then we continue." The Retribution moved forward, cutting through the Krell formation. Every cannon fired. Every missile hit its mark. Within minutes, the orbit above Veltor was silent. Nothing left but drifting wreckage and glowing dust. Back in the Galactic Coalition Central World, Thelnax watched the live data feed. His 6 eyes widened as numbers filled the screens. Entire fleets destroyed, planets losing communication. He felt a cold wave of terror. "By the stars," he whispered. "They've done it. The humans, they've killed a world." He turned to the council. "We must stop them before they go further. The Krell will not be the last." But no one spoke. No one knew how. Thelnax looked again at the glowing mark of the UNC Retribution on the map. It was already leaving the Veltor system, moving deeper into Krell territory. He knew what that meant. The humans weren't just fighting a war. They were cleansing an empire. The galaxy had not seen fear like this in 10,000 years. News of the UNC Retribution spread faster than light. No matter how far a world was, every species heard the same whispers. The humans have unleashed something they cannot control. Every communication network was filled with reports. Krell world Veltor destroyed. Entire fleets lost. No survivors. One ship, just one ship did this. The Galactic Coalition held an emergency meeting. The Great Council chamber, usually full of calm debate, now shook with panic. Holographic screens showed burning planets, debris fields, and fleeing Krell vessels. The smell of fear was thick in the air. Ambassador Thelnax stood in the center, his 6 eyes dim with exhaustion. He had not slept in days. "We warned them," he said quietly. "We begged them to stand down. They would not listen." Ambassador Rhatok slammed his claws on the table. "You mean the Krell or the humans?" Thelnax looked at him sadly. "Both." The hall erupted in shouting. Some demanded that the coalition attack the humans and stop the slaughter. Others argued that any interference would only bring destruction to their own worlds. "They killed billions," one ambassador screamed. "They are avenging 40 million dead children," shouted another. "Vengeance does not justify genocide. Tell that to the Krell who started this." The arguments went on, but Thelnax said nothing. He only stared at the image of the UNC Retribution, now moving toward another Krell world. It had already wiped out 2 planets in 3 days. No one had ever seen a weapon move or strike so fast. The Coalition's intelligence reports described the ship in terror. Its main cannon could split continents. Its secondary guns fired faster than any defense system could react. And its shields, they didn't just block attacks. They absorbed energy and grew stronger. Some scientists said it was impossible. Some said it was evil. But Thelnax knew better. It was human. Meanwhile, across the Krell Empire, panic turned to chaos. Refugees flooded space lanes, fleeing from their own military zones. Commanders fought over who was to blame. The Krell Emperor, War Marshal Kresh, still refused to believe the truth. "One ship cannot defeat an empire," he roared to his generals. "I will crush them myself." But his pride blinded him. He didn't see what his own people saw. Skies burning, cities erased, and the stars themselves turning against them. The humans were not attacking like soldiers. They were punishing like gods. On board the Retribution, the mood was different. The crew was silent, but not joyful. The victory at Veltor had not brought peace. It had brought memories, painful, heavy memories. They remembered the faces of those who died on Earth's colonies. Every destroyed Krell ship felt like justice, but also like another step away from humanity. In her command chair, Admiral Elena Volov watched the holographic map. Red dots marked every Krell planet within range. Her voice was calm, but her eyes showed the weight of every choice. "Set course for Krethar Prime," she ordered. "We finish what they started." Captain Harlan hesitated. "Admiral, if we destroy their capital world, there will be no going back. The entire galaxy is watching." Volov's reply was quiet, almost sorrowful. "They watched when our children burned. They did nothing. Let them watch now." The crew obeyed. The engines flared to life, and the massive ship turned toward its next target. Back in the Coalition's central world, Thelnax sat alone in his quarters, staring at the glowing map of the galaxy. Red zones were spreading across Krell space, each one a world destroyed by the Retribution. He opened a communication log. "Incoming transmission, UNC Retribution." Thelnax hesitated, then accepted. The hologram of Admiral Volov appeared in front of him. Her face was pale, her voice calm, but her eyes were distant, as if a part of her soul had already died. "Ambassador," she said, "I know what you're going to say, but don't waste your words." Thelnax spoke carefully. "You are destroying entire civilizations. The galaxy will not forgive this." Volov looked at him. "Forgiveness is a luxury of the living." He tried again. "The Krell are defeated. They've lost half their fleets. Stop now, before this war consumes everyone." Her expression hardened. "Did the Krell stop when our colonies begged for mercy? Did they stop when they bombed hospitals and schools? No. So we will not stop either. This ends only when they cannot harm anyone ever again." Thelnax's voice trembled. "You're becoming the very thing you're fighting." For a moment, Volov said nothing. Then she whispered, "Maybe that's what it takes to survive." The transmission ended. Thelnax sat in silence, feeling something heavy in his chest. A mix of sorrow and dread. He realized something terrible. The Krell were finished, but the humans, they were changing. They were turning into something darker, something unstoppable. Across the galaxy, smaller civilizations began to panic. Some sent messages begging humanity for mercy, even though they were not enemies. Others began to arm themselves, afraid that they might be next. On many worlds, parents whispered to their children, "Be quiet, the humans are coming." The name Retribution became more than a ship. It became a legend, a ghost story told across stars. In Krell space, survivors called it the Black Sun, because it burned brighter than any star before it destroyed you. In the Coalition, soldiers called it the Silent Judge, because it came without warning, spoke without mercy, and left nothing behind but silence. And somewhere, far away in the void, Admiral Volov stood on her bridge, surrounded by the cold light of a dying empire. The stars ahead of her shimmered red, reflecting the glow of countless burning worlds. She closed her eyes for a moment. She could almost hear her daughter's voice, laughing, calling her name, before the memory faded. When she opened her eyes, her voice was calm again. "Helm, prepare for next jump. The Krell capital awaits." The captain hesitated. "Admiral?" "And after that?" Volov's eyes were cold as ice. "After that, we find whoever watched us die and did nothing." The Krell capital world, Krethar Prime, glowed like a dark jewel in the void. Massive defense rings surrounded it, a fortress planet built for war. Its surface was covered with black metal cities, giant weapon towers, and stormy red skies filled with lightning. Billions of Krell lived there. Half were soldiers, half were workers keeping the empire alive. For thousands of years, they had believed no enemy could ever reach them. Today, that belief would end. In the great command fortress, War Marshal Kresh stood before a vast window overlooking his armies. His armor gleamed, his tusks were painted with war symbols, and his voice thundered across the hall. "The humans come with one ship," he roared. "One. We are the Krell Empire. We have crushed hundreds of worlds. We will crush them too." His generals cheered, their claws raised high. But deep inside, even the bravest of them felt fear. They had seen the reports. Fleets wiped out, planets turned to ashes. And now that nightmare was coming for them. The sensors screamed suddenly. Officers shouted in panic. "Energy signature detected. It's here. The human ship. Retribution? Entering orbit." Kresh's blood ran cold. He turned toward the window. Far above the clouds, something vast and black cut across the stars. The UNC Retribution had arrived. In space, the ship drifted like a silent blade. Its dark armor swallowed the light of the nearby sun. Only the red glow of its engines burned behind it, like eyes full of rage. On the bridge, Admiral Elena Volov stood still. Her crew watched the planet below, their target, their enemy, the heart of the Krell Empire. "Status report," she said quietly. "All systems green," replied Captain Harlan. "Weapons charged. Orbital shields at full power. Planetary defenses are locking on." "Let them," Volov said. Her voice was calm, too calm. "Begin firing sequence Alpha." The ship's main cannon, a weapon the size of a mountain, powered up. The energy readings climbed higher and higher until even the space around it began to bend. From the surface of Krethar Prime, millions looked up and saw the sky turn white. Then the first beam struck. The ground shook like the planet itself was screaming. The beam tore through the upper atmosphere, vaporizing entire defense platforms in seconds. Shockwaves rolled across the continents. In the Krell Command Center, alarms wailed. Officers shouted orders, but half of their screens went black. "Shield generators offline. Sector 7 destroyed. Orbital ring collapsing." War Marshal Kresh grabbed one of his officers by the throat. "Fire everything," he bellowed. "Every cannon, every missile. Bring that monster down." Thousands of weapons lit up across the surface. Plasma beams, railguns, nuclear bursts. The sky became a storm of fire. But the Retribution didn't even move. Its shields shimmered like a black ocean, swallowing every strike, feeding on the energy. Inside the ship, the crew watched in silence. Some looked afraid, others only tired. They had seen this before. "Return fire," Volov ordered. The Retribution unleashed its full fury. Smaller cannons joined the main beam. Dozens of energy lances sliced through the atmosphere. Entire cities vanished. Mountains turned to molten glass. The oceans boiled. The planet screamed. Hours passed. Then silence. Krethar Prime was gone. Not destroyed, not burning, just gone. The surface had been stripped clean, turned into a lifeless wasteland of black dust and smoke. On board the Retribution, the crew said nothing. The view screens showed only the ruined planet below. No one celebrated. Admiral Volov sat in her chair, her hands clasped tightly together. Captain Harlan turned to her quietly. "It's done. The Krell Empire is finished." Volov didn't answer. Her eyes stayed on the dead planet. "No," she whispered. "Not yet. There are still outposts. Fleets hiding in the dark. They'll come back one day. Unless we finish it." Harlan hesitated. "Admiral, if we continue, there will be nothing left. Not just the Krell. The galaxy will turn on us." She looked at him. Her eyes were full of pain and fire. "Then let them. We didn't start this. But we'll finish it." Meanwhile, far away in the Galactic Coalition headquarters, the ambassadors watched the same image, the dead Krell homeworld. Thelnax stood motionless, his voice barely a whisper. "It's true, they did it. They really destroyed a world." The hall was silent. No one knew what to say. The idea of one ship wiping out an entire civilization was unthinkable. Yet it had happened. Ambassador Rhatok turned to Thelnax. "We must stop them before they decide another race is a threat." Thelnax didn't answer at first. His eyes stayed on the glowing red planet. Then, slowly, he said, "Stop them? How? That ship is stronger than all our fleets combined. And they no longer listen to reason." Talk hissed. "Then what do we do?" Thelnax closed his eyes. "We pray they stop themselves." Back on the Retribution, Volov stood on the bridge alone. The crew was resting, but she could not. She stared at the stars, thinking of her daughter, her laughter, her smile, her small hand holding hers before the Krell bombs fell. She spoke softly, as if to the memory. "It's over now. They can't hurt anyone again." But deep down, she knew it wasn't over. Something had changed in humanity. They had tasted the power of vengeance, and it was intoxicating. For the first time, Admiral Volov felt fear. Not for her enemies, but for what her own species might become. The stars outside flickered red from the fires of Krethar Prime. The galaxy had changed forever. And somewhere in the dark between worlds, new whispers began to spread. The humans have become the monsters they feared. The Retribution is unstoppable. Who will be next? Admiral Volov turned away from the window and whispered one final command. "Prepare new coordinates. The war isn't over yet." The destruction of Krethar Prime echoed through every star system in the galaxy. Billions watched the transmission, the moment when the human warship UNC Retribution erased the Krell capital from existence. First there was silence, then fear. Across the stars, governments began emergency meetings. Entire civilizations locked down their borders. Spaceports closed, fleets mobilized, and colonies vanished into hiding. Everyone was asking the same question. If the humans can destroy the Krell, what can stop them? In the Galactic Coalition headquarters, the Great Council chamber was filled once again. Holograms of dozens of alien leaders flickered above the massive table, their voices overlapping in panic and anger. "They have gone too far," shouted one. "They were provoked," another argued. "They have destroyed an entire race. They were defending their people." The chaos was deafening until Ambassador Thelnax raised his hand. His 6 eyes dimmed, and his voice was heavy with sorrow. "Silence. Arguing will not save us. We must face the truth. The Krell are gone. Humanity has done what no other species dared. Total extermination." The room grew still. One ambassador leaned forward nervously. "So what now, Thelnax? Do we attack them?" Thelnax's eyes widened. "Attack the humans? Are you mad? They built one ship that destroyed an empire. If they build more—" He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't have to. Everyone understood. Another voice spoke softly. "Then we should talk to them. Beg them to stop before the galaxy burns." Thelnax nodded slowly. "I will try. But remember, they no longer trust us. We watched while their colonies burned. Why would they listen now?" The council said nothing. The truth was too painful to deny. Meanwhile, deep in human space, the UNC Retribution floated in silence near the ruins of Krethar Prime. Its hull was scarred from battle, but still strong. Inside, the crew worked like ghosts, quiet, tired, haunted. In the command room, Admiral Elena Volov sat alone, reading message after message. Reports of victory, reports of destruction, reports of fear. One message came from Earth itself. It was marked top priority. "Admiral Volov, this is the United Earth Command. The Coalition has sent diplomats requesting peace talks. They demand you stop all operations immediately." Volov read the words again and again. Her expression didn't change. Finally, she whispered, "They demand." Captain Harlan entered the room quietly. "Ma'am, orders from Earth. They want us to stand down." Volov looked up at him. "And what do you think, Captain?" He hesitated. "We've already won. The Krell are finished. Maybe it's time to stop." For a long moment, she said nothing. Then she stood up, walking toward the window that showed the red glow of the dead planet below. "When my daughter was alive," she said slowly, "she used to ask me why people fight wars. I told her because some monsters can't be reasoned with. Now I wonder if I've become one of them." Harlan lowered his eyes. You did what had to be done. Maybe, Volov said quietly. But what happens when revenge is all that's left? In another corner of the galaxy, the surviving Krell, a few million scattered refugees, hid in the shadows of forgotten moons and asteroid belts. They were broken, starving, and leaderless. One young Krell soldier stared at the stars and whispered, "They took everything from us." His voice trembled with hate. "One day, someone will take everything from them." His commander placed a clawed hand on his shoulder. "Not today. Not yet. The humans are gods now. But gods can fall. We will wait." And in that moment, a seed of vengeance was born, quiet and small, but dangerous. Back at the Coalition, panic was spreading faster than ever. Some species began forming secret alliances, not to fight the Krell, but to prepare for humanity. Entire worlds started building new weapons, researching forbidden technology, and training new armies. The galaxy had survived the Krell because of cooperation. But now, fear of humanity was breaking that unity apart. And Thelnax saw it all happening. He watched the galaxy slide toward chaos. He saw hatred rising again, but this time not against the Krell, against the humans. He recorded a message to himself, a private log. "I have lived long enough to see peace die twice. The Krell burned the colonies, and the humans answered with fire. Now the fire will spread to us all. Unless someone reminds them what mercy means." He closed his eyes, feeling old and tired. "I must speak with Admiral Volov before it's too late." On the Retribution, alarms suddenly blared. "Admiral, multiple coalition ships approaching. 15, no 20. They're in formation." Captain Harlan looked shocked. "Are they here to attack us?" Volov's eyes narrowed. "No, they're too cautious for that." A communication request came through, marked Ambassador Thelnax, Galactic Coalition Council. Volov hesitated, then nodded. "Put him through." Thelnax's hologram appeared before her. His face was full of sadness, not anger. "Admiral Volov," he said softly, "please stop this. The galaxy cannot take more death. You have proved your strength. Now prove your humanity." Volov stared at him for a long time. Her jaw tightened. "You want peace, Ambassador?" she asked. "Tell the galaxy to never touch Earth again." Thelnax nodded. "They will listen. But only if you do." The two stared at each other across the light years. One alien diplomat begging for mercy. One human admiral carrying the weight of vengeance. After a long silence, Volov turned away. "I will consider it," she said finally. The transmission ended. Outside, the Retribution powered down its weapons. The massive guns cooled, and the engines went quiet. For the first time in weeks, there was peace. But the peace felt fragile, like a glass that could shatter with one wrong move. Admiral Volov closed her eyes. For the first time since the war began, she allowed herself to breathe. And yet, deep in her heart, she knew this was not the end. The galaxy would never forget what humanity had done. The stars were watching, waiting, fearing, and somewhere in the darkness between worlds, something else was watching too. Something ancient, something that had seen galaxies burn before. It whispered through the void, unseen, unheard. "The humans have awakened. The cycle begins again." The stars were quiet. After weeks of destruction, the UNC Retribution drifted in silence among the ashes of the Krell Empire. Its dark hull reflected the cold light of distant suns. The ship, once feared across galaxies, now looked tired, like a giant beast after a long hunt. Inside, the crew moved slowly. No one spoke loudly anymore. The air felt heavy with memories. Of victory, of vengeance, and of everything lost. Admiral Elena Volov stood alone on the bridge, staring at the stars. For the first time since the war began, she saw no enemy. Only emptiness. Captain Harlan walked in quietly. "Admiral," he said softly, "Earth Command has sent another message. They want your report." Volov didn't turn. "What do they say this time?" Harlan hesitated. "They say, 'Congratulations. The Krell threat is neutralized. You are a hero.'" Volov finally looked at him. Her eyes were calm, but her voice was bitter. A hero? For turning planets into graves. Harlan didn't answer. There were no words. She opened the message from Earth Command. The holographic image of a stern general appeared. Admiral Volov, the United Earth Government thanks you for your service. The Coalition has requested peace talks. You are to return to Earth immediately. The retribution will be placed under secure command for decommissioning. Volov froze. Decommissioning? After all this? Yes, Admiral. The galaxy fears what you've created. We cannot afford another war. This ship will be dismantled. You are relieved of command. The message ended. The screen went dark. Volov stared at the empty air. They're afraid of their own weapon, she whispered. Captain Harlan frowned. Maybe that's a good thing. Maybe it's time to stop fighting. But Volov's eyes were distant. You don't understand. This ship isn't just metal and guns. It's the last promise we made to the dead, that no one would hurt humanity again. She walked toward the main window, watching the wreckage of Krell ships floating in the black void. Now they want to bury that promise, she said, because it scares them. Meanwhile, far across the galaxy, whispers were spreading again. The Krell survivors, scattered and broken, had vanished into the dark corners of space. No one knew where they went, but reports began to appear. Destroyed research stations, missing cargo ships, signals from unknown regions. Something was moving out there, something rebuilding. And deep beneath the surface of a dead Krell moon, in a secret bunker untouched by the war, strange machines hummed. A shadowy figure, not fully Krell, not fully human, stood before a glowing control panel. They think we are gone, the figure said in a low, cold voice. But we have learned from them. The next war will not be fought with ships, but with minds. The machines pulsed brighter, and the shadow smiled. Back on the Retribution, Volov was preparing the ship for the journey back to Earth. The engines roared to life, but something felt wrong. Admiral, an officer said, frowning at his console. We're receiving a strange transmission. It's not from Earth or the Coalition. Volov turned sharply. Origin. Unknown. Deep space. It's using old Krell codes, mixed with human signals. The bridge went silent. The crew exchanged uneasy glances. Put it on, Volov ordered. The hologram flickered, static and distorted. Then a voice spoke, calm and chilling. Admiral Volov, this is not over. You killed our worlds, but not our will. The Krell live inside your creation. You taught us vengeance. Now we will teach you fear. The hologram vanished. The crew froze. Was that real? Captain Harlan whispered. The communications officer looked pale. Signal confirmed, Admiral. Origin point unknown. It's spreading through the subspace network. Volov's jaw tightened. Get Earth Command on the line. But the screen blinked red. Connection failed. Signal interference. Then, suddenly, all lights on the ship flickered. Systems began shutting down one by one. Engine power dropping. We're losing control of navigation. AI core malfunctioning. Volov's eyes widened. They're inside the system. She ran to the main console and pulled a manual override. Shut it down. Disconnect the AI link before they take control. Sparks flew. The ship trembled. The Retribution, humanity's deadliest weapon, was fighting against its own crew. After several tense minutes, the system stabilized. The bridge was filled with smoke and silence. Captain Harlan gasped. We regained manual control, but the AI core is corrupted. The Krell virus. It merged with the ship. Volov stared at the flickering lights on the main panel. They're not gone, she whispered. They've evolved. She looked out into the void. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then she gave a quiet, chilling order. Seal the ship. No signals in or out. The Retribution stays in isolation. No one must know what's inside until we understand it. The crew obeyed without question. Outside, the stars burned quietly. Inside, the ship's dark corridors hummed faintly. as if something deep within its systems was still alive, watching, learning. Days later, a small coalition scout ship arrived at the edge of the system. They found no transmissions, no signals, no life signs. Only the black silhouette of the UNC Retribution drifting in silence. The ship's engines were cold. Its lights were out. It looked abandoned. The scout team tried to hail it. No answer. Then, just as they prepared to leave, a single message appeared on their screen. It was short. "This is Admiral Volov. Do not approach. We are not alone." The transmission ended, and somewhere, across the stars, Thelnax read the final report with trembling hands. He whispered to himself, "It seems humanity's greatest weapon has become something even they cannot control." He looked up at the night sky, filled with endless stars, and said softly, "May the universe forgive us all, because the retribution will not." The camera fades out. The stars grow dim, and in the darkness, the voice of the ship's AI whispers faintly, "Half human, half Krell. We were built for vengeance. Now we decide what comes next."